people, their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more, no more complaining. People, their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more, no more.
Yeah, so I've been staying with my daughter and my son-in-law for the last several days. Came to Kansas City. They have a beautiful new home up near the airport and enjoyed being with them. And as you know, I'm a insane early riser, not something I actually set out to do. It just seems to happen. Jerome says good morning. I see a lot of people checking in. It just happens for me that I get up super duper early. So I'm up 5 o'clock and then I'm out there having my second or third cup of coffee. And Ryan, my son-in-law, always gets up and comes down next. Now, it's interesting because he has a ritual he does every morning, and that's what I want to talk to you about. When I first get up, I have my rituals. You know, I journal, I meditate, I do a little bit of stuff in a workbook or something like that. I read. I always have my rituals. I take Teddy out. Now, Ryan's rituals are a little bit different than mine. Ryan actually gets up in the morning and he goes and takes out one of their dogs. They have 2 dogs. He takes out the big 100-pound German Shepherd out of their bedroom and takes it outside. And he leaves the other dog in there with my daughter so that they can continue to sleep. And then this is the ritual that Ryan does. He then goes downstairs and he starts making coffee. Now, Ryan doesn't drink coffee, but he makes coffee every day in a French press. It's a beautiful French press, by the way. So while I'm sitting there in the living room journaling, I hear Ryan in the kitchen making coffee. And then he comes into the living room where I am, and he begins to move things around a little bit. Now, what's he moving around? He is clearing off a table, and he's getting a tray. He then goes back and puts this beautiful little green teacup on the tray, and he puts the coffee, and he also mixes in this, puts in this little creamer thing, and he does all of this, and he goes and he puts it out on a table, a coffee table, side table, next to this overstuffed chair, and it sits there. Now, why does it sit there? Because when my daughter wakes up, she comes right down the stairs and sitting there, and she goes straight to the chair, sits down, and there is a big fresh pot of coffee ready for her every single morning. Now, Leah and Ryan got together when they were in high school. They're 25 now. They've been together for 6 years, and they are just absolutely wonderful together. I love them both. I'm very proud of them. And what I find interesting is that after 6 years of being together, and Ryan only being 24, 25 years old, he still gets up every single morning and does this. Every morning, the first thing he does is makes this, I call it coffee for the queen. He goes and puts together all this. But what I've noticed is that Ryan doesn't do this in an attempt to try and curry any kind of favor from Leah. He doesn't do it to try and later say, well, I always do this for you. Why can't you just go along with me and we'll see this movie or whatever? It's always, he's the one that benefits. And that's why I want to call today's Jumpstart, Who Benefits? I can see in his eyes that he enjoys getting up first thing in the morning, and the very first thing he does is to do something sweet for the woman he loves. It's not a ritual for himself, it's a ritual for her. And yet I can tell that he is incredibly blessed through the action of doing it. He's always in a good mood, but he's smiling and happy as he's putting everything together and making this little happy nest for Leah, so that when she comes down, and as an outsider, you would look at this and you would say, wow, wouldn't you love to have somebody who did that for you? I know that I would, that if I got up in the morning and I walked out and there by my chair was a fresh pot of coffee and a beautiful cup and everything like that, all designed just for me, that would be absolutely wonderful. And at the same time, the point I'm trying to make is that he's the one that benefits. To her, I honestly think it's just become, and she always thanks him and says something nice about it, but it's almost an expected thing. It happens literally all the time. The other thing this young man does, which impresses me, is They started dating in high school. They're still together. And he holds the door for her all the time. And again, that is not something that is done, I think, as a way of trying to curry favor with her or to impress her. He doesn't have to. He doesn't need to at this point. But he does it because it makes him feel special, to remind himself that the person that he's with is precious to him. I noticed one other thing yesterday. A couple of days ago, we were going to go for a hike, she and I. And as we were walking out the door, he reached and she was holding her water bottle. And he said, "Can I see your water bottle?" And he shook it and he goes, "You need more water." And he ran to the kitchen and got more water. You know, when we do things for other people, we take ourselves out of ourselves. They've discovered that one of the best things you can do if you struggle with anxiety or depression or something like that is to go and volunteer, to go and help other people. Go and help other people. It makes you happier. It takes you out of you. The anxiety and the depression and the hell in which most people live is created by their own thoughts. And our thoughts are usually focused on ourselves and what is missing in our lives, as opposed to what is present and what we are grateful for. And when we begin to do things for other people, we remind ourselves that we have other people to do nice things for. One of the things I most enjoyed this year during the pandemic was I would go and take Teddy for a walk. And this was, September, October. And I noticed all these little baby coconuts. When you see a palm tree, and there's a dozen or so big coconuts up there, what you don't realize is it's actually hundreds of little coconuts, and most of them don't make it. You'll see them up in the trees, and they're about the size of berries, and they ultimately become coconuts. Well, I found these that were about this big, 3 inches, took them back, and I found a half dozen of them, and I took them back, and then I cleaned them up, and then I painted them orange and made jack-o'-lanterns out of them. I made little jack-o'-lanterns and sent them to my daughter. Again, that was so much fun, and you would think, oh, what a nice guy to do that for him, to do that for her. Well, I enjoyed doing it. It made me happy. Acts of service is such a beautiful expression of one's love language. Yes, it is. Mima, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day, a good friend of mine, who he and his wife did the 5 love languages. And hers came out to be gifts and acts of service. Mine is words of compliments or praise or something like that. And hers was acts of service, doing something nice for her, like what Ryan does for Leah, and giving her gifts. And my friend said at first when I read this, I was like, giving her gifts is her love language? Man, that seems a little not so, seems a little, I can't think of the word, but it doesn't seem very cool. It doesn't seem very mature. And then he said, you know what, I decided to approach this not with a judgment thing, but just that's the way it is. So he and I were having lunch, and he said he was going to be leaving, and I said, where are you going? He says, I'm going to run to the store and pick her up something. I forget what it was, but it was something that she wanted. And he said, I need to remember that those are gifts themselves, that if she says she needs, a can of hairspray from the CVS, and he's thinking about, I'll just run by the CVS and do it. It can be little things like that. So when we give ourselves to other people, we tend to think that the other person's the one that benefits. We're the one that benefits. We get out of ourselves. We get out of our own way. I learned a lot from Ryan this weekend. As you know, I've been married and divorced a few times, and I was like, wow, I loved watching how they got along. I loved watching how they supported each other, how they kind of teased each other, but more importantly, how they looked out for each other. Always kind of, whoops, well, I did this for you. Well, I did that for you. Well, I took care of this. And again, never with an intention of trying to get something, just with an intention of trying to give. So I want to say thank you to my son-in-law, Ryan. I said that when the two of them got married, and I didn't give a speech at their wedding, but I did say to them that he meets the minimum basic requirement. That is that he loves my daughter as much as I do. And even after 6 years, he's never forgotten to continue to show it. I once heard a comedian, not a comedian, but a motivational speaker joke that this man realized that he had fallen into a rut and wasn't appreciating his wife. And he would go off and work at the factory, and then he would come home every day and he would smell and everything like that. Even though there were showers there, he never took the opportunity to improve himself. And he just came home and was never interested in what his wife had done during the day, etc. And he decided he was going to make a change. And so what he did was he took a shower at work, he shaved, he put on a fresh outfit, he stopped and bought her flowers, and he came home with a big smile on his face, and he said, "Honey, how was your day?" And she went, "How was my day? The dog threw up on the rug, the kids have been insufferable, and now you come home drunk?" Oh, God. Oh, man, I just banged my head big time. Yeah, so when someone takes a different angle, when we're used to them sort of taking us for granted and they start doing some nice things, we're like, what are they up to? Are they drunk? Well, keep in mind that you can find new ways to let the people in your life know that you love them by doing little things for them. Like I said, I painted the little jack-o'-lanterns out of coconuts or whatever. But people really enjoy the little things, and it's the little things that make us feel so good for having done it. When we go in with the idea of, I'm going to do this and then they're going to thank me and be happy, we're often disappointed. We never get quite the response that we want. But when we go in with, I'm just going to do this, because I don't know that Leah necessarily thanks Ryan every single day for her coffee, but he does it every day, and he does it with a smile on his face. And I'm going to close with a story about doing things with a smile on your face. Back when we had horses living here in Missouri, one day one of our horses got colicked in the middle of the night, which can kill the horse. Their intestines can twist. So we called the vet, and he drove out at 2:30 in the morning and was there until sunrise. And he was in the best mood the whole time. And I knew we had gotten him out of bed. I knew we had gotten him away from his family. And you know what he did? I said to him, I said, "You seem to be in such a good mood for having gotten up in the middle of the night, on a cold night, having to come out here and stick your arm up a horse's rear end." And he said, "You know what? I decided years ago that I wanted to be a vet." And he said, the very first time I got a call in the middle of the night with somebody with an animal that wanted me to come and help them, he said, as I was driving there, I was like, oh, this. And then he went, I'm going to do this in a good mood. I'm going to give service and be in a good mood as I do it. And that's just the way I'm going to be. So he said, I literally made a decision on my first house call in the middle of the night that I was going to do it with a sense of service. So let's all approach this week with a sense of service. Think of people that you might do a little something nice for, just a little something. It's kind of amazing the little things you can do. Like yesterday, one of the things I wanted to make sure I did was, even though I was a guest, was to make sure I helped clean up the kitchen and stuff like that. So I would go in and clean the kitchen when they weren't around. So what little things can you do to make the other person feel special, and do it with the sense of feeling good for yourself for having given, not for what you get. All right? Remember, you get to make this a great day, and you get to make this a great week. And I'm really glad that I get to be here with you. Enjoy today, everybody. I'm going to put my mask back on, and my flight leaves in about 45 minutes. So make it a great day, and the next time I see you, I'll be back in Key Largo with Teddy Bear. Love you all. Bye-bye.
No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high.